Welcome to the PharmaSource podcast.
Sterile injectable manufacturing has long been defined by a trade-off between quality and efficiency. Traditional fill-finish operations often accept around 10% material losses as standard, but for early-phase biotech companies with limited API batches, every milliliter lost translates to delayed timelines and increased costs. As the industry shifts towards more complex biologics and personalised therapies requiring smaller production runs, CDMOs face pressure to minimise waste while maintaining the highest sterility standards. Eramol, a UK-based pharmaceutical CMO, is addressing these challenges through a brand new, purpose-built sterile injectable facility in Sevenoaks, Kent. The 11,000 square foot site features a 2,000 square foot GMP Grade AC cleanroom suite designed to achieve less than 1% material losses, significantly below industry norms. Beyond manufacturing, Eramol offers packaging, labelling, QC testing, UK and EU QP release, storage and global distribution, offering an end-to-end integrated solution from a single UK location. In this episode, we speak with Peter Mollison, CEO and co-founder of Eramol, and David Cox, site director at Eramol, about the technical decisions behind their low-waste facility design, how they're integrating end-to-end services to simplify outsourcing for biotech, academia and research clients, and what it takes to build a sterile manufacturing site that meets 2023 EU GMP Annex One standards. Thank you both for joining me. So, Peter, let's start with you. So let's talk about this new sterile injectable facility that you're opening in Q2 2026, so right about now. What gap are you trying to fill?
Yeah, thanks for having us on. Lovely to speak to you. So Eramol started as a virtual operation of getting off 10 years now, and our aim was to always bring in services in-house that we initially outsourced, and this continued with, initiated with warehousing and packaging and followed with non-sterile manufacturing and testing. And as QPs with sterile manufacturing backgrounds, we've always aimed to bring this high-value service in-house, and this opportunity came about approximately 2 years ago to bring this in, and we've always thought that this more agile sterile manufacturing need for clinical trials and also for commercial, small scale commercial was a key demand in the market that we've seen over the last few years.
The facility is designed to achieve less than 1% material losses. Why was this such a priority? I'll leave this open to either of you to answer.
Well, I'll kick off. I mean, it was always in our mind when we designed it that when we're dealing with biotech companies in the past, we know how valuable their drug substances are, but also how potentially limited supply they can be, specifically at the early phase studies. So minimising waste was factored into our design specifications, and it was Dave really who created the engineering solutions to ensure this became a reality. So I think I'll hand over to the expert here.
See, in terms of the design intent, that obviously came from Pete and Eric around what was the ambition in terms of reducing the losses within the manufacturing process, but not just within the process, but also the sampling strategy and regime that goes with that. In terms of the equipment design and selection, it was looking about keeping pathways as short as possible and how do we clear those pathways. Combined with that, as well as cross-contamination and also integrity of those systems as well. So by considering each of those independently and as a system, we're able to identify where potential losses are and therefore reduce them.
So for a small biotech with limited API, like you mentioned, how does that difference in wastage actually impact their development timelines?
So by reducing the quantities that are consumed within the process, as Pete mentioned, you've got potentially a limited quantity of material to work with. So by maximizing the output from that limited material ensures that you can get either testing going with a larger population, or you can get stability samples on and appropriate time points on that as well. The risk of having greater losses is greater expense from increased manufacturing of expensive API, as well as time in terms of the filling or manufacturing requirements to deliver the output required. Also, if you're looking at things such as stability programs, you need a quantity associated to that batch in order to show that the product is stable or effective. Therefore, you don't want to be having multiple batches as you're bringing in variability in that data set as well.
So beyond minimising losses, how does the facility design actually maximise yields for clients?
So the facility design looks at each of the processing steps identified as part of the original concept, identify potential points of loss or waste, and then address those through engineering design elements and then through process development as well on site. So for example, where we have fluid and line, ideally we can transfer that using a pump system, but if not, we can use elements such as compressed air or gas transfer cycles in order to clear those lines and maximize yields.
Can you walk through some of the design choices you made to minimize material losses?
Sure. So as part of the engineering design, we kept fluid path lengths as short as possible. So where we're having to transfer between equipment, for example, at a filtration stage, we will keep those hose lengths as small as possible in terms of physical length. We also look at hose diameter, so the cross-sectional area times the length will give a volume, and also for filter choices as well. So we need to ensure for filters that we can test them offline robustly, but also that we don't get fluid hold up within those filters as well.
Beyond fill finish, you're offering packaging, labelling, QC testing, QP release, storage, and global distribution, all from the same site. That's a lot. What is the strategic advantage there, Peter?
Yeah, we do a lot on site. Sort of turnkey service really enables our clients to have a single point of contact, a single manufacturer who can manage their project throughout the life cycle of their product. Our extensive experience in being the QP release site for the last decade, really ensures that all of our upstream services that we provide, so any formulation work, QC testing, manufacturing, packaging, labeling, blinding, we all have this end in mind of getting that product to the patient. There's no point, in having the best formulation and development service if you don't have the capability to actually get that product into the market, into the study. And that's where we thrive. So we will advise clients very early on in our discussions on the best approach from both technical, regulatory aspects in order to get those products to market within realistic deadlines.
I hear the integrated CDMO solution kind of coming up more and more these days. From a client perspective, what changes when they can work with one partner for everything?
Yeah, well, obviously there's a single point contracting point, which makes probably their life a little bit easier from onboarding a new vendor, a new supplier. We have a single point of contact, for project management that will oversee and manage that project in-house, no matter what service they have, whether that's labeling only or whether that's sterile production, all the way through to release. We will manage that project, and there'll be a dedicated team associated with that project. In that team, there's a dedicated QP that's on site and assigned to that project to ensure that not only that initial phase of assessing the supply chain and the regulatory strategies, that we then oversee those regulatory needs throughout the life cycle of the project. So I think being in control, because 99% of what we do in-house, the client and us, we're in control of everything that we do. There's no reliance on significant other vendors in that supply chain that we wait for another supplier to get the product released to market. We do that in-house. We don't wait for another supplier in Europe to release into Europe. We do that in-house. I think from a client perspective as well, I think we get to know our clients a lot better as well as the clients get to know us.
So obviously Eramol supports clients from early phase through to their endpoint, but what does that journey actually look like?
I think that our clients are very varied, and they have very unique requirements. So I think to say that a typical journey, I'm not sure that actually exists, but because of our capabilities, support clients from early phase 1 all the way through to phase 3 and potential support for commercialization, our dedicated team ensures that the regulatory and CMC strategies, depending on their specific territories of interest, we will then map out what's best, that we think what's best for them for a specific territory, whether that's just the UK, just the US, or whether it's Europe, or a combination of all the above. So I think a typical journey, like I say, is quite hard to call typical, and I'm not sure if Dave's seen more and has more to add.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Everyone's different, I guess, isn't it? Dave, do you have anything to add to that?
I think to echo Pete's point, in terms of the client and the ambition for the activities for us to perform, it can vary from client to client. I think what we aim to do is help them that journey. So if they let us know what the goal is and the ambition, where they want to get to, and by when, we can support in terms of if we are doing manufacturing or operational activities, we can best guide them on what's the easiest and simplest way to do that. Also down that compliance route in terms of processes, what would be okay, not okay, sampling, testing, etc., associated to that. And yeah, just really support with that journey on what's the goal. Don't necessarily tell us what to do. We can work with that. We'll give you this is what we recommend to achieve that output. And especially with the new facility we've put in, we've worked on almost a bracketing approach to how we've commissioned and qualified it, so that products fit within a range of activities. So we're not locked down to doing a specific thing in a specific way. We have got some flexibility within our processes as far as practical within the regulations.
I think just to follow up from that, I think a typical journey does always include solving problems that come up along the way, whether that is a technical problem, regulatory, or supply chain. And so, from our experience of dealing with projects across that life cycle, I think we're well versed to sit down with the clients and solve problems that do come up, and often in an efficient way, because there's always a timeline and there's always a patient at the end of it waiting.
Yeah, definitely. So this facility specifically targets small to medium batches. Why is your focus there, and what batch sizes can you handle?
So probably the easy question is, what batch sizes can we handle? So we work on we call it a solution makeup as a starting. So typically 5 to 10 litres is we're operating scale. In terms of that as numbers, it depends what's the fill quantity coming out from that. But we talk about 5 to 10 litre scale as a starting. We're quite fortunate in the fact that we've got two pathways. So we've got an aseptic pathway to allow us to do sterile fill finish within an aseptic isolator, as well as terminal sterilisation. And within those processes, we have capability to do multiple products within them as well. But in terms of volume, really that sort of sub 5 litres up to 10 litres, really depending on what the client needs. And in terms of numbers, what we say is sampling +1 would be the minimum batch size, but maximum is really denoted by the input.
Do you have anything to add to that, Peter?
Yeah, I think our target of the early phase, small, medium-sized batches kind of mirrors what we've done in our non-sterile production capabilities. I think that is working in those areas where we're comfortable, and we offer that agility that maybe larger players don't have.
Yeah, but you are planning to scale batch sizes beyond 50 litres for phase 3 and commercial launch in the next sort of couple of years, and move into cartridges and syringes. Can you tell me more about what that roadmap looks like?
Sure, yeah. So when we designed the sterile facility here, we left a significant size or a significant area of the facility as a fallow space that we could grow into. And that's left, like I say, left fallow in order for us to really determine what best to use that area in the future. And currently we are considering a fully automated filling line for up to sort of 50 litres batch sizes. So the roadmap for that, we're looking getting the initial facility up and running, getting the MHRA out finally, and looking then into probably 27, 28 to invest further into the facility here to expand it. I think moving in cartridges and syringes, we have the capability to do that from the initial phase of the build. So we can do that probably from the end of this year onwards. And that's, again, coming back to the key selection of equipment, processing equipment that we selected. I say it's really what they've selected to enable us to have that flexibility in the dosage forms that we can offer. So that's what we're looking at. So 27, 28 is where we're looking to then initiate the expansion build.
As you're building towards that, how does your global shipping and distribution work for clients running trials, in multiple countries?
Yeah, that's something that we've been doing pretty much from the get-go. We shipped pre-Brexit throughout Europe, and then obviously post-Brexit we acquired a facility in Dublin to help with the EU release, and that's all done in-house. And we also ship, for the US and through partners, through local depots, through the US, through South America, through the Asia Pacific region and Australia as well. So I think, again, when we are managing global shipping on behalf of clients, we have years of experience in dealing with that, even moving product across territories, including controlled substances, which can be quite a challenge. But again, our experience, our dedicated team, logistics team, projects team, always look at the best routes and options for shipping, whether that's using a local depot or going direct to site. That's really part of that initiation and feasibility setup stage of the project, where we really outline the best approach or strategy for them from their supply chain to get the product into market as efficiently and quickly as possible.
What would you say overall are the sort of biggest challenges biotech companies face when outsourcing sterile manufacturing?
I think finding a reliable partner that is compliant and maintains that compliance as those regulatory goalposts move and everything becomes, dare I say it, more and more challenging to ensure that the safety and the quality of your products that you're manufacturing. So I think that is a huge challenge with non-conformance. I think for us, compliance is a key part of our ethos, our DNA. We're founded by QPs, so the importance of the quality system, importance of looking forward and horizon scanning and seeing what changes are coming from both regulatory but also technical perspective to ensure that we maintain that compliance throughout the life cycle of projects that we handle. So that's probably one of the main challenges. I think other challenges will be finding capacity, finding the company the sterile CMO that has the capacity and the agility to take on complex products that can also do the downstream activities of labeling, perhaps blinding, and that release to market would always be a challenge.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about the sterile fill finish capacity sort of crunch in the US. Would you say that's also global? There's a sort of a capacity struggles in the UK and Europe as well, and worldwide.
Yeah, from what we've seen is there's always a demand for it, and this demand comes from across the globe, and it might be from small scale to large scale, commercial to clinical, but there's certainly a demand as more and more new products are being developed. I think more and more going down the route of injectables, long-acting injectables. So yeah, being at the forefront of that to be able to offer new services to the market is definitely a bonus for us.
Yeah, it sounds like an exciting space to be in right now. So obviously this new facility build has been a long time in the making. You mentioned, I think, a couple of years. What did you both learn during the build that maybe surprised you or meant you had to sort of change your approach? And Peter, maybe start with you.
I think we've done so many builds in the past. It's nothing really surprising me too much, but I think the lead times still raise eyebrows of key equipment, especially when we go for equipment of the likes of the equipment that we've used in our isolator, for example. We could have gone off the shelf isolator with a 4 to 6 month lead time, but we made the choice to go through a semi-bespoke isolator which had a lead time of probably 12-15 months. And so that is the one thing that surprised me. But overall, I think I've been surprised with the professionalism of the contractors that built it, and obviously Dave being asked to manage that really well. So yeah, so not a huge amount of surprises. Obviously the cost, but
yeah, Dave, how about you? What did you sort of learn along the way?
I think reaching out to various suppliers and manufacturers and SMEs was that actually the industry is still playing catch up on the change in the regulations, and that everyone's still on this learning curve. There's no hard fact defined way of doing everything, so it's open to a bit of interpretation and where do we see alignment from what our perceptions and ideas are around the industry. But I think the surprise to me was the desire to collaborate between different companies. We all bring a different piece to the table and what we can bring. And actually in some of the equipment that we've worked, especially where it's more bespoke or development, we've all added different input into it, and the output has actually been something that's really successful. Had it been an example of off the shelf sort of bolting, putting your Lego bricks together and hopefully they fit, it probably wouldn't have got the same output as what we achieved with that. Yeah, and I think the focus is there to make something that actually works and it ticks the boxes for your quality, your timeliness. I know we talk about months for delivery, but it's ticking those boxes for it. it's got a good throughput based on the processes we're doing to the right quality, and actually does that overall service from the cost perspective as well, both for the client and for the business.
Oh, well, Peter, David, thank you both for taking the time to talk to me about your new facility expansion.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for your time.